He only disappears on Thursdays. Part 2.
I stared at the passport while my brain desperately tried forcing logic into something that no longer made sense. Maybe immigration issues, maybe old documents, maybe witness protection. God, maybe I was becoming insane. I looked toward the bedroom doorway. He was still asleep, or pretending to be. And suddenly, for the first time in 6 years, I realized I knew absolutely nothing about the life he lived before me. Not really. Only stories, fragments, carefully controlled pieces. My hands shook harder around the passport. Alexander Volkov. Who the hell was Alexander Volkov? I barely breathed while opening my laptop. My fingers felt numb. I typed the name slowly, then stopped, heart pounding so hard I could hear it. Part of me already wanted to close the computer and pretend none of this happened, because as long as I didn't know the truth, our life still technically existed. Our daughter still had safety. I still had certainty. Love still looked normal. But once truth enters a relationship, you can never unknow it. Finally, I pressed enter. At first, nothing appeared. Then more results loaded slowly. Russian articles, forums, archived pages, old blurry photographs, most untranslated. One image showed 3 men standing outside a warehouse at night. One of them looked exactly like him. My stomach tightened instantly. No, 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 no. I clicked another page, then another. The automatic translation loaded badly, but certain phrases still cut through the screen sharply enough to make my blood run cold. Financial investigation disappeared. False documentation. Suspected involvement. I physically pulled my hands away from the keyboard, like touching the truth too directly might somehow destroy my life faster. The apartment suddenly felt horrifyingly silent. Not peaceful silent, wrong silent, the kind where your nervous system starts listening for danger automatically. I looked toward the hallway. Our daughter was still asleep, her tiny stuffed rabbits outside her bedroom door. Normal. Everything still looked normal. And somehow nothing was normal anymore. I clicked another photograph. Younger version of him. No beard, different haircut. But the eyes were identical. Sharp, watchful. Nothing like the man who built blanket forts in our living room. Nothing like the man who kissed my forehead before leaving every Thursday night. My breathing became shallow because suddenly my brain was trying to force 2 versions of reality together that emotionally refused to fit. The man online looked dangerous. The man beside me every night looked safe. How can both things exist inside one person? Then I heard footsteps behind me. I slammed the laptop shut instantly, heart exploding. He stood in the hallway, staring at me. Sleepy, hair messy, barefoot, normal, completely normal. That was the terrifying part. The man from the photographs didn't match the man standing in front of me. Not emotionally, not physically, almost. It felt like looking at 2 different realities colliding together.
Why are you awake?
His voice sounded soft, careful. I forced myself to breathe normally. Couldn't sleep. His eyes moved slowly toward the passport in my hand, and everything inside him changed instantly, not dramatically. That almost would have been easier, just stillness, absolute stillness, like watching somebody emotionally pull walls around themselves in real time. Silence swallowed the apartment. Then finally,
Where did you find that?
not angry, not yelling, which somehow terrified me more because guilty people usually panic. He looked defeated. I stood up too fast. Who are you? My voice cracked apart halfway through. God, his face when I asked that. Pain, real pain, not manipulation, not fake confusion. Pain, and somehow that made everything worse because suddenly part of me realized whatever this was, he truly loved us. That's what made it horrifying because monsters aren't supposed to feel human. He glanced toward our daughter's bedroom immediately, instinctively, protectively, then lowered his voice. Please don't wake her. My chest tightened violently because even now, even in this moment, he still sounded like her father. I stared at him while my brain spiraled uncontrollably. Every Thursday, every secret, every missing detail, every strange reaction, every hidden piece of his past suddenly rearranging itself into something terrifying. Tell me the truth. Silence, then quietly.
You don't want the truth.
That sentence made fear move through me for real for the first time. Not a fear, not heartbreak fear, danger fear. I stepped backward unconsciously. He noticed immediately. God, the way his face broke seeing me afraid of him, that expression still haunts me sometimes because suddenly he looked less like a criminal and more like a man watching his entire life collapse in front of him. Finally, he sat down slowly at the kitchen table, hands trembling slightly, then whispered.
My real name is Alexander.
The apartment suddenly felt colder, more foreign somehow, like reality itself shifted permanently. Everything else? Long silence, then
Not everything was fake.
not everything. God, that sentence destroyed me emotionally because suddenly I realized the worst part wasn't discovering lies. It was not knowing which memories were still real. I started crying before I even realized it. Not loud, just tears silently falling while my nervous system completely overloaded. Do you understand how insane this sounds? He nodded slowly, like he hated himself already.
I never wanted this life near you.
Life, not past, life. Present tense that terrified me instantly. What does that mean? His eyes moved toward the windows automatically, checking outside, checking the parking lot, checking exits. And suddenly, every strange behavior over 6 years replayed differently inside my brain. The different driving routes, his awareness in public, the panic near sirens, the constant observation. Oh my God. He spoke quietly after that, like every word physically hurt him. Years ago in his country, he worked for dangerous men, not because he wanted power, because he was young, poor, desperate. At first, money movement, fake documents, transport work. Nothing violent, at least not in the beginning. Then slowly things changed. The people above him became darker, more dangerous. People disappeared. Threats became normal. Violence entered everything. And by the time he realized how trapped he was, leaving wasn't simple anymore. Leaving meant becoming a target. I couldn't fully process anything. My brain kept splitting emotionally in opposite directions. This man read bedtime stories. This man rubbed my back when I was sick. This man cried, holding our daughter the day she was born. How could that man exist beside this story? But maybe that's what terrified me most. Darkness rarely looks dark all the time. Sometimes it looks loving. Sometimes dangerous people build gentle lives because they desperately want to become somebody else. And suddenly I realized something horrifying. I still loved him even while being afraid. Then finally, I asked the question destroying me internally. Thursdays, where do you go? His eyes closed briefly, like exhaustion finally reached his bones. Then quietly,
To make sure nobody finds us.
silence, actual silence. I stared at him, unable to breathe properly. At first, my brain rejected the sentence completely. Us? What do you mean, us? He explained slowly after that. People from his old life believed he disappeared with money. Some still searched. Every few weeks, somebody contacted him, cash payments, information exchanges, temporary silence, temporary protection. Thursdays weren't a fair night, they were survival nights. I looked toward our daughter's room again, and suddenly my entire body went cold because this was no longer about betrayal. This was about danger, real danger. Are we safe? That question broke him completely. I watched tears fill his eyes instantly, real tears.
I've spent 6 years making sure you are.
6 years. 6 years carrying this alone. 6 years pretending normalcy while terror quietly followed him everywhere. And suddenly I remembered every Thursday he returned softer afterward. Not because another woman comforted him, because he came home relieved we were still untouched. Sunlight slowly started appearing through the kitchen windows. Neither of us had moved for hours. The baby monitor crackled softly beside us. Ordinary sounds, birds outside, cars starting, morning beginning normally, while my reality no longer felt recognizable. Finally, he whispered,
If you tell me to leave, I will.
God, that sentence, because for the first time all night, he stopped sounding dangerous. He sounded heartbroken, and somehow that hurt worst of all. Then suddenly, our daughter cried out sleepily from her room,
Daddy!
and both of us turned instinctively toward the sound at the exact same time, like parents, like normal parents. And in that moment, I realized something unbearable. The man terrifying me was also the man we loved most. He stood automatically, like instinct pulled him toward her before thought could, then stopped himself halfway, looking back at me carefully, like he suddenly needed permission to still be her father. That destroyed me emotionally in ways I still can't explain, because fear is confusing when love is standing inside it. Part of me wanted to grab my daughter and run. Another part wanted this entire night erased. And another terrible part still wanted him near us, because love doesn't disappear immediately when truth arrives. That's the cruel part. Sometimes your heart takes much longer to understand danger than your brain does. Go to her, I whispered finally. Relief moved across his face so fast it physically hurt to watch. He walked down the hallway quietly. Then I heard his soft voice through the baby monitor.
Hey, princess.
Our daughter giggled sleepily immediately, completely safe, completely trusting, and suddenly I broke again, because children don't understand hidden lives. They only understand love. I sat alone in the kitchen, listening to him comfort her, while my whole reality collapsed around me. He sounded normal, warm, gentle, the same man. That's what kept destroying my brain over and over. If he sounded cruel, cold, violent, this would be easier, but he sounded like home. A few minutes later, he carried her into the kitchen, wrapped in a dinosaur blanket. Tiny curls messy from sleep. She immediately reached for me.
Mama!
I grabbed her too fast, too tightly. He noticed instantly. Of course he did. God, he noticed everything. Our daughter looked between us, confused. Little kids feel tension like weather changes.
Why sad?
My throat closed instantly. How do you explain fear to a 2-year-old when you barely understand it yourself? Mama's tired, baby. She touched my face softly with her tiny hand, then pointed toward him.
Daddy, fix it.
And something inside me shattered completely because to her, he was still safety. Later that afternoon, after she fell asleep for her nap, I asked him the question that had been poisoning me for hours. Did you ever lie about loving me? He looked at me like I'd stabbed him, actual pain crossing his face instantly.
No.
Too fast, too emotional, not rehearsed.
You're the only real thing I've had in my entire life.
God, I hated that answer because part of me believed it immediately. Then I asked the question I was even more afraid of. Did you ever hurt anyone? Silence, long silence. His eyes dropped toward the floor. And right there, before he even answered, I understood something terrible. The world isn't divided into good people and evil people as cleanly as we want it to be. Sometimes survival ruins people slowly. Sometimes fear turns people into things they never planned to become. Finally, he whispered,
Not the way you think.
not the way you think. What does that even mean? I wanted details, confessions, clear answers. Instead, everything stayed emotionally gray, messy, human, which somehow felt far scarier than obvious evil. That night, he slept on the couch. Not because I asked him to, because he understood I was afraid. I lay awake listening to every tiny sound in the apartment, every car outside, every hallway noise, every creak. And somewhere around 3 a.m., I realized something horrifying. I wasn't afraid he would hurt us. I was afraid of the world that might eventually come looking for him.